Alright, somebody at Marvel is just messing with us because they love putting us on this roller coaster ride of quality. Oh, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Ooh. Oh, Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The Marvels. Loki Season 2. Let's get to talking about it. So the finale for Loki Season 2 has now premiered on Disney Plus, and you know how it goes. Usually 9 times out of 10 when we get to the finale of a Marvel Disney Plus show, we've heard this song and dance. Cool moments, felt very rushed, didn't feel like this season needed to happen. What the heck was the point of that? Set up for the next season. Not with the Loki series. That's not what we doing here. Loki continues to be the best Disney Plus content that they have made, and it's like a real potential that if this much attention to detail was put into the story, the characters, and the narrative as a whole in the season, all these Disney Plus shows would be coming off a lot more impactful. So what I'm going to be doing here for you guys is not only giving you my spoiler review of this, I'm going to be talking about the season as a whole, how this might affect the MCU moving forward, but really just us celebrating, because even when we get something that we might not all the way love, Marvel's still churning out some good stuff here and there. Alright, so just to kind of give you guys my overall thoughts on the season, I did review the first 4 episodes whenever Disney let me in on that, but I had just been so burnt out on Disney Plus shows, I really didn't have that motivation or need to like immediately watch the next episode and then sit down, look for all the Easter eggs and make a video for you guys. Like, if I wasn't feeling passionate about it, there's no point in forcing that here on screen for you guys. You can feel it when I'm just being on autopilot. So whenever a new episode of Loki Season 2 was coming out, although I was enjoying the show, I never felt like rushed to see it. I'd maybe let a day or two go by, then I'd click it on if I had some good food in front of me. At first, the season felt like it was going for something more low stakes, that it was kind of like a miscellaneous story. I was loving the additions of a lot of the new characters, but halfway into the season, things really kicked into gear and started getting progressively better until that finale just hit in the sweet spot. I think the overall thing that made season 2 of Loki feel really good and just satisfying as a close is because the creative team envisioned season 1 and 2 to be a complete book and story. This might make some of y'all feel sad, but don't expect Loki season 3 to happen. We had the writer of the show said, we approached this like 2 halves of a book. Season 1, first half. Season 2, we close the book on Loki and the TVA. And oh my god, in this finale, you can definitely feel that things come full circle, tying in stuff from the first season, this season, and even just Loki's character throughout the entirety and beginning of the MCU. After this episode of Loki Season 2, Loki now shoots up there as top 2 most developed MCU characters as a whole. I definitely want to continue gushing about that and where they end off his character, but let me get into some of the other things that I also really enjoyed about Season 2. Bringing back a lot of the returning members like Mobius, Owen Wilson, and Sylvie. I like the group dynamic. Although the TVA felt a little smaller this season, which was contributing to me feeling like they went for a small-scale threat, it really worked out in the end for me because it was all, again, to develop Loki and to show that he's become friends with someone. He now cares about something. This was the same Loki that was technically terrorizing New York City and trying to take over Earth. I love what they included with showing what members of the TVA's lives were like outside of the TVA. That brought some emotional weight to the characters, and OB Ouroboros, played by Ki Huy Kwan. I just looked up how to pronounce the name, and that's how he said it. Don't get at me in the comments. But I remember being kind of pissed off whenever they announced that he was added on to Loki Season 2, because I love this actor so much. I feel he deserves a much bigger, grander role in the actual movies, that I thought they were gonna underutilize him for Loki Season 2. And no, he's in almost every single episode. He's extremely funny, so likable, and was one of the main reasons I really liked tuning back into every episode that was coming out. You know, getting on to Jonathan Majors as Kang, Victor Timely, and He Who Remains, putting his personal legal drama aside and looking at him as just an actor, man, I really like him as Kang. I love that the show was able to pull out the He Who Remains character one more time and tie it back to the ending of season 1, because that's kind of the funnest variant for me. His acting is also phenomenal, and even the way he starts mimicking his other variants like Victor Timely. I remember when season 1 ended, and I'm wondering if people are still feeling that way with season 2. A lot of people were disappointed that the finales were a lot of sitting down talking dialogue. I don't know, for me, I was on the edge of my seat with every sentence lines being said back and forth. You can feel actual weight put into the story and what the characters are saying, and it doesn't feel like what Marvel sometimes has become with just a joke fest or trying to get to a punchline. Like, everything here felt very serious, and I appreciated that. Getting into the time slipping stuff, man, that made Loki such an OP character, and I'm glad the show took a great way into progressing that power and ability. I was kind of shocked by how much he was able to do by the end of it. Like, when the title card came up, that centuries went by and he learned quantum mechanics, physics, and all that. I was like, yo, even if I had those powers, I don't know if I'd sit down and learn on that. But I love kind of the Groundhog Day nature of him repeating and living the same day over and over. I thought it was really fun. But okay, after gushing about what I really enjoyed and liked about season 2, let's get into some of those big spoilery details, because Loki ends up getting what he's always wanted. A throne, becoming a king, and essentially becoming the new He Who Remains. I freaking love this ending right now for Loki. I'm not sure where they're going to take things next. We can speculate that on a sec. But the way that this episode was building towards that, and I even got a hint of it when they were showing the recap at the beginning of the episode. TV shows always kind of spoil what direction they're headed in with those recaps, and they kept bringing up that line about he wants to be king, he's burdened with glorious purpose, like he's meant to own a throne. I was like, why are they bringing up this kind of stuff in the recap? And then oh, I see why. I want to bring up a pet peeve I had with the MCU, starting with Thor Ragnarok. Now, while I enjoy that movie and it is a lot of fun, one thing I really hated about Thor Ragnarok is what they did with Loki then becoming ruler of Asgard. All throughout Loki's characterization and progression throughout the past MCU movies, to me, let me know that if he was actually given the chance to rule Asgard, he would try his best to be a good king. He actually cares about those people. He wants the respect and admiration. So when Ragnarok was just making him this silly king who just puts on dumb plays and has people feed him fruit, I was like, that's not what Loki would actually do with that power. Maybe he'd start a couple of wars with rivaling realms, but he would take care of the Asgard people and respect them. It even pissed me off more when later on they gave the throne to Valkyrie. Now, nothing against the Valkyrie character, but I feel like her rise to power didn't feel earned in the MCU. Felt so random. This barely introduced character now just rules over something so grand and important in the MCU. And with Thor having no interest to run or even protect his people, I'm like, what's going on with the Asgard side of things? So now that we get to this point in the MCU and Loki is finally given what he's always wanted, this throne, this glorious purpose with burden, boy is there burden. It's kind of like the perfect little ending for him. He's given that throne, but he's not free. He's stuck there and he's forced to have this timeline in check, thrown away ones that shouldn't exist, like one of those being getting rid of Kang variants. There was a small Easter egg talking about Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania where Mobius says, oh, they got rid of a Kang. He was 616 adjacent, which I'm assuming they said that because it was in the quantum realm. So now kind of speculating on what they could do here. Marvel has a real out with their Kang problem. That is, if Kevin Feige and the Marvel world decide that they don't want to risk Jonathan Majors' trial in real life and whether they're going to be found guilty or innocent, they can now go to Loki as essentially the bad coming up in the MCU, or at least a version of him. They make it sound like this was always going to happen, even with or without the stuff going on outside the world, so this doesn't feel like an immediate rewrite just to like get rid of Jonathan Majors Kang. But now I think they have a real setup here that if they do want to step away from Kang, Loki could kind of fill in those shoes. But I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of stumped on what they do here. Now, will this Loki then meet up with our Avengers team when it's time to fight all the other Kangs? He's obviously trying to get rid of a lot of them, so if he's still on the good side and wanting to be a better version of He Who Remains, he might team up with those Avengers come Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars. We've heard rumors that in other projects, the TVA is going to want to be setting up like an army of superheroes to fight Kang variants. Loki could very well be the leader and commander of that. Plus, the contact he's already had with superhero beings, he'd know with which variants to start with. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front, but honestly, when it came down to it, super satisfied with Loki Season 2. Like, even when they just showed the tree that comes together from his branching timelines, I was like, Oh my god, the Tree of Life from Thor. Like, everything felt so coming together and satisfying. I really wish a lot of the modern day MCU projects could feel like that, because I feel like this is a perfect example of, like, yes, there is some setup for things that will affect the future of the MCU, but when it came down to it, they focused on the self-contained story of building the characters, following a narrative, and it's all the more satisfying for it. I don't know. That's just my opinion with Loki Season 2. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this, whether you liked it, disliked it, your theories and speculation to where you think they're headed off. Anything and everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.